fat memory. Does it exist? How does it work? That's the most important question.
No matter what fitfluencers want to tell you about what your body is designed to do, your body is designed to survive.
Your body values stability. Extreme dieting is never going to create stability.
With that understanding of what your body wants to do, you want to build muscle, plan for maintenance, eat consistently, and you want to expect resistance that is not a failure.
Because that's the essential question that's being asked here. Is it easier for me to regain weight once I've lost it? The answer is
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
welcome back, Kelsey, wherever you are in your fancy house with a background
Fancy.
that's so fancy.
It's so fancy.
See, the thing about me is my toxic trait is that if I see decor, I'm like, I need to have that.
I need
know
to
some
have
people
that.
do that with clothes,
shoes,
some people do it with like bags or makeup.
leggings.
Mine's decor.
You
Leggings.
see it, you gotta have it. I see it, I have it.
I don't know. It's a toxic trait. The other
Do
one I
you
have is if
follow a
I
lot
visit
of-
somewhere and I
Do you
like it, I have to move
Do you
there.
follow decor people on the interwebs?
Oh my God. Are you joking? That's my whole entire reason
Page.
for being. I don't even do anything on Instagram. I literally don't even, sometimes I hit my alerts and I'm like, oh my God, somebody messaged me 3 months ago, I like your hair, and I never responded.
Yeah. You just
Whoops.
consume decor stuff.
No, I'm just there for the decor. That's it.
Yeah.
I have like just,
You have one
I don't know,
one
10
reason
or,
for
10 or
being
so
on
decor
this.
accounts.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hear that. I also follow decor. My algorithm is a mixture of things for sure, but decor is definitely in there. And at one point I was like, can I just like come here to consume decor things and then leave? Because that's what I want in
No,
my
because
life.
you have to buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just consume
I'm
them.
also
because
on an
then
organizational
they start showing up.
like algorithm, not full on. I think it probably takes like, I don't know, maybe 15% of my suggested things. But I did watch one the other day that had a comparison for like what you're doing and that's making your life messy, or like, and how much time it would take to just put it back to where it should go. And then I was like, well, she doesn't know ADHD. But it was a helpful like
But she
side by side.
does.
Yeah.
No, but she does. Yeah, but what she's saying to you is
She knew how to
that-
speak to me.
Okay.
She showed the like 3 seconds of what you do to put the thing down and the 32 seconds that it would take to like one of them was like, take off your jacket, take off your shoes, put the jacket here, and then put the shoes back there. Do you know what I'm saying? Like simple. And people are probably being like, this is stupid simple, but for some of us it's not. And how much time, because like in some of our minds it's about the time. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to put that back. And
the problem is
the
that
30 seconds of making your life better kind of a thing.
it's not even that. It's that it will take more time to then come through
Yeah.
at some point in the week and pick up the 4 jackets and 16 pairs of shoes that you could have like, it's not only the day-to-day, like, wow, this is a clutter-free space, like that puts my mind at ease. Those are all really good things. But if you are invested in like time management or like maximizing time, it actually is faster to just keep up on it. Same thing with laundry. You don't have to have a whole day dedicated to laundry if you, all right, well, I'm just
No, this is
on
great.
my
Like,
I'm just
she
on
made
my
a
high
great point.
horse here.
She did the making the bed one too, which, like, I don't
Mhm.
know. I think, like, I'm just speaking to both people. I understand the value for me personally and, like, having my bed made, going upstairs and being like, "Ah, that's made." But I also know that, like, when you have a task sometimes for some of our brains that just, like, lives there, and then you just kinda continuously beat yourself up over the task that you're not completing when it would literally take, like, 3 minutes or so to complete, like, one of the things is, like, when you clear out I watch this guy who makes spoofs on ADHD people. He was like, "How to clear out your closet like an ADHD person." And he clears out all his closet, and you feel good. You go put the bags in your trunk. Now, you will leave those bags there for the next 3 months, and every time you open your trunk, you'll
Yep.
say, "Why can't I just bring those bags over?" And then he's like this repeat of like, "Ah, no, it's there again." Like, it's like I was like, I feel this in my soul because every time you see it, you say like, "I'm such a piece of shit. I can't bring those bags the back." And then like logically you go like, that would take 3 minutes on your way to this other thing that you're going in that direction, and you could just you don't have to turn the car off. You could put it in park and run out and throw it in. And then you just have this loop of like why you suck so much because you're not doing the thing. But, yeah.
Personally,
It will
a
remain
hack
in your
that I
trunk.
use, and I know, I have for the most part, a very neurotypical brain, so I know that this may sound easier than it actually is, but, I close the loop on all tasks that I possibly can. So if it's like I'm gonna clean up my closet, I do not do it unless I have time to put the bags in the car and drive them right then. Because I want the loop to be closed on the entire project. I don't want the project to be halfway done because that's upsetting to my brain. So if I'm setting aside time, like the entire thing has to
Mm.
be closed.
I
I
love
did the
that. I
thing,
just
I
want a
brought the
tidbit
clothes, I
for,
closed
like,
it.
executive function is that end part is overwhelming, and it will stop the beginning part. So, sometimes it's like, "Well, I don't have time to do the whole thing, I'm not gonna do part of the thing," and then it never
True.
gets done. So, like, so sometimes when you're like, "Just start to put the clothes in the bag," is the first step to, like, getting the thing done. That's like, I may not have time for this full thing, but I just need to put clothes into a bag." And it starts the process of like I did one thing and I got the ball rolling. So I started my executive function instead of like still need to clean out my closet. Still need to clean out my closet. You know what I mean? Like it's just like you keep
I do.
walking by it and then you're like, just do one little part of it. They also had one about heating up your coffee. I don't know if this is relatable to anybody else, but it's like how to heat up your coffee like an ADHD person. Open the drawer, put your coffee in. Oh, that needs to be taken out. And it shows him going through several steps and then sitting down and doing 4 hours of work and then being like, "Man, I wish I had a coffee." And then you open it to your coffee from yesterday. And it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I bet there's one in my microwave right now.
how to heat up your
Right? And as
coffee.
we do this conversation, there's probably a tea in the microwave
Mm.
just waiting for its time to be thrown out because it's been in there God knows how long, and, people, consistently open the microwave at my house and go, "Mama."
Matt did a whole segment of following my coffees around that are half drinking.
Oh, yeah, they go on journeys,
They
little
go on journey
journeys.
of what room
I
they're
found them in the
in.
bathroom,
Yeah. Next to the shower.
the
I'll just drink it in the
closet.
shower.
Yeah, just a shower power hour. It's the different kind, not the college
N
version.
different
That was way more
stage.
fun. So you guys, the first thing that I want to say is this entire episode is inspired by a question that we got on YouTube. And I just want to shout out Carol G 6598.
For
Carol,
asking the right
you
questions, Carol.
Well, first of all, hell yeah for being, uh, like, inquisitive and being like, "Hey, I listened to what you said about the muscle building and how it never truly goes away and how the nuclei and I'm, like, into it and I'm here for it, but I have a question." And first of all, I'm here for just that whole line of thinking. And also, Carol, thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for asking the big questions because it helps us to make great content that you guys want to hear. So, Carol G is our MVP of the day because she has the question that is going to, I know, be echoed by a bunch of other people going, "Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Carol G. Yes, girl." Um, so when we did the
Carol's
episode,
helping us close the
and if you
loop.
haven't listened to it, oh
It
yeah.
is what Carol is doing, because when we started this kind of topic on the episode, if your body, if you had been strength training or you had been working on your fitness at one time, does your body remember? And the answer was yes. And is it easier for you to kind of build muscle or, I don't want to say like get back in shape, but like get back to feeling good and feeling like you're on a good health regimen and building muscle. Does your body remember? Because we were saying, like, hey, I did a pull up. It took so long to do a pull up the first time. And when I went for it the second time around, it was like, how do I still have this? It took years the first time. And I've barely been working out. Like, how does my body remember this? And we had kind of like thought we closed the loop, but Carol told us we didn't. Well, pointed out a very clear we didn't, because she was asking, does the same apply for fat storage? If you at one point lost a significant amount of body fat, is it easier then to regain that body fat like it is to regain muscle? And I was like, Carol, you understand the assignment, because that's a really important question, because a lot of us are saying like, okay, I had a significant amount of muscle or endurance at one point, and it was able to get back some of those skills or build that muscle much easier the second time around after I'd taken a significant amount of time off. But if I am someone who is, I'm going to air bunny that's kind of prone to more fat storage or carrying a higher body fat, or it's easier for me, or in the past, I have maintained for a significant amount of time a higher body fat percentage, and I've lost some of that body fat. Now, is it easier for me do I lean in that direction? Do I gain some of that back? And we're going to answer that question today. Complex answer, but we're going to answer that question
I
today.
I love I love this because, the whole tone of the muscle memory episode was like, hey, no time is ever wasted when we're strength training, when we're building muscle. It's never a waste of time because your body's going to remember. And I think that when you when you ask this question about fat storage, obviously you're hoping the opposite, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that I really, really want to hit home with this episode is that your body is designed to survive above all else. And we're
No
very
matter
thankful.
what
Thank you, body.
fitfluencers wanna tell you about what your body is designed to do, your body is designed to survive, and that is I indisputable. Its number one goal is to keep you alive.
So when we talk about, muscle memory and the muscle's ability to remember and how that is an incredible feature of evolution and health and wellness, yes. Uh, does fat remember? Okay, we're going to get into this, but the short answer is kind of, but not in the same way. So, we're going to break this down in a way that is very digestible and very easy to understand. But the short answer on fat memory is, does it exist? Kind of. How does it work? That's the most important question, because understanding how the muscle memory works and how the nuclei are there, and we equated it to the factory. Remember, we said, like, okay, once you've built the walls of the factory and you've put the machines in, even if the factory goes dark and there's no production for a vast amount of time, when you then go flip the lights on and turn the production back on, you don't have to rebuild the factory. And that was the nicest thing about muscle memory. Um, we have a nice analogy for fat cells as well. But I think the first thing that we want to do is kind of talk about how fat cells actually work, because they aren't the same as muscle tissue and the cells that build muscle. So, two different things, two different functions, and they function a little bit differently, but both are active tissue. So, that is important to remember. Fat's not just like this blobby tissue that does nothing all day, but except annoy you.
No, it definitely isn't.
It
And I
actually
think
has a
that,
function.
yeah, but I think that's a very important thing for people to understand when it just comes to like thinking about your metabolism, thinking about your muscle growth, repair, that you need to remember that when we're looking at these things and we're using the factory analysis analogy, and we're using some of these different ways in a means to explain, the cells within your body are very alive and very active. And that's why some of these answers can be a bit more complex than how our brain really wants to get some of these answers. It wants to break it down in a way of like, well, this is just a blob on top of our body and I could just remove it. And it's like,
Mm.
that's not how that works.
It's not like a
But
wart.
and I think like the fitness industry has done a really poor job of this as well, because it's taken
Yes.
advantage of the fact that like we want to simplify some of these things. And don't get me wrong, some parts of nutrition and working out and muscle building are very simple. They are. And we've like convoluted, like we've made those so complex. And the other side of that, where some of the things are a bit more a bit simpler, we're be like, well, they're way too complex. So I think that the fitness industry, and we've done this in a way of like, you could spot drain, for example, just work this area, and the fat that's stored on top of that area will then decrease. And we know that's not how fat storage
Eh.
works. You don't just get to say, like, okay, well, I'm going to do a bunch of squats, and that's going to overall decrease, or no, so I'll do it with crunches because that's more relatable to everyone. That's going to decrease the excess fat that I feel that I'm carrying in my midsection by doing a bunch of work in my midsection. And then therefore that's going to overall reduce my body fat. That's not how body fat works. And that's why we're going to kind of dive into like how body fat is actually working with your body, how your body is like using that storage, how it's being used for energy. And I think that's going to really clarify what we're thinking about when we're looking at excess fat storage and how we might be able to decrease that in a way that gives us longevity.
And supports our overall health, because you need fat. You
You
need it.
need fat. I mean, we just said
Okay.
this in a previous episode, but if you didn't listen to it, like a higher BMI being an indicator of a longer life is like just something I really feel like we need to talk about many, many times, because like later in life, when you experience falls, we're going to get into this for fat, but the protection that fat is providing for your body is an important one, especially later in life. So that's all not all
So
just bad. Like, I wanna
it's
give
not all just
I
bad.
wanna give
No,
Fat
it's
a shout out here. Hey,
shout
Fat.
out to you. Look at
Yeah. It
you
gets such a, like,
protecting me.
no, every fitness podcast is going to talk about body fat in a way of like only the negative attributes that it's going to deliver to our everyday life, when it gives us so like it also gives us so much. And our thoughts around fat storage are really like a cultural thing. Like in different cultures, like having higher body fat content is being like, okay, you have a lot of resources at your disposal, you are definitely very resilient, like it's a sign of like a higher socioeconomic class, like for lack of a better term. Like there's so many, it's a very cultural thing of like, no, body fat is better. Like it's actually not.
We've got to interrupt this podcast because this is a very, very special weekend upcoming for our Facebook group and our TTSL members. And we want to invite you.
We want to invite you to do a really hard, really long workout with us, but with all your best friends.
Come
um
on, it's going to be really long and really hard. What? Did that sell you on it?
I'm not sure if that sold you, but honestly, I think that this is one of those important workouts that we get to remember why we do hard things, honor those who have served our country, and do it with a bunch of friends. So if you're not already in our Facebook group, is Stronger Together by CVG, get in there. We're all going to do this really hard, really long workout with the best of friends, and you should join.
You should join. We can scale it to literally any level. So, wherever you're at on your fitness journey, we have a version of Murph for you to do. Come honor heroes this weekend. Murph is happening in our Facebook group, and we would love to have you join us. So, fat is just like everything else.
Mm.
In excess, it can take away from overall health, and in the correct nice balance, guys, we're talking about balance again. All right, so what do fat cells actually do, and why shouldn't we just hate them all the time? Um this is actually your energy storage. So fat cells, their primary purpose, and this is very important in keeping you alive and keeping you moving every day, is they take excess energy and they store it for a future time when you will need it. And likely you will need it. Now, in a culture of excess everything, it has, we need excess energy less and less. However, the evolution of the human body is designed to make sure that if there is a time where we are not readily available calories, we have these stores to make sure that we can stay alive. They're released when needed. When you have a deficit in energy, that is when the fat cells go like, it's my time. You need energy, and I've been waiting here. They're also extremely, extremely important when it comes to hormone regulation. And this is why you see women at extremely low body fats having issues with their menstrual cycle is or losing their menstrual cycle in like its entirety, is because the hormone regulation that is happening with fat cells is a very important part of how the human body regulates itself. Not only are females like regulating their hormones via their fat cells, but also your indicators, your hormonal indicators of being full, of being hungry, these are regulated by fat cells. So, your reproductive health, your hunger, and your fullness are all part of the metabolic process that goes into fat cells and what they do on a daily basis. They're not just sitting there annoying you. And they also play a big role in blood sugar regulation and energy distribution.
Hold on, I want to pause on hormones for a second because I don't want to give the false impression that just with hormone regulation, just at a lower body fat percentage, you are, disrupting your hormone regulation. Because when we're talking about balance on both sides of the spectrum, you are having hormone disruption. So if you're carrying an excess of body fat,
Yes,
you have hormone disruption. If you are carrying a lower percentage of body fat, then your body essentially needs. And we've done an episode on set point weight theory. So there's a lot of different indicators and just variables when we start to talk about this. And it all will essentially come down to balance. But on either end of the spectrum, if you are carrying an excess of body fat, you have hormone disruption and regulation. And on the other side of that, you have hormone disruption and regulation. And I think that's why it's
correct. Because
so
when you're out of
important.
balance, you're out of
That's
balance.
100%, but that's why it's so important to really, drive home the fact that you cannot tell someone's health by the exterior of their body because we don't know what's going on in there. And we just have this kind of bias towards someone with a lower body fat percentage has, regulated hormones and is superior when it comes to, a health perspective. And that's not true, because when we look at both ends of the spectrum, and you can't tell that because you don't know what someone's set point weight is. You don't know what their body is comfortable at. So when you see someone that you might say like, well, that is too low of a body fat percentage for her, you don't know. And when you say that's too high of a body fat percentage for her, you don't know. Like, you don't know on either end what they're closer to, what their body is at more of a homeostasis spot.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, and it's so, so important. We heard, I was just reading through some of the comments on our GLP-1 expert and that episode, which people really, really enjoyed. They learned a lot from, and we got a lot of personal stories in the comment section about people who have taken GLP-1s and their personal experience with it. And so many of the comments had to do with hormonal health being very disrupted, stuff like PCOS and just like reproductive hormonal issues that people were having at higher body fat percentages, and how a GLP-1 came in, lowered the body fat percentage, and those hormones regulated themselves. And just it's really, really important when we're talking about fat storage that we recognize what an important role hormones play in overall metabolic health, and being in any one direction, too low and too high, is going to be disruptive to your overall health because fat cells are so important. So give them their due. They protect your damn organs. I mean, somebody's
For
got to do it, you know?
For real. Well, it's such a delicate thing because they do protect your damn organs, or they're providing too much pressure to your organs. So
Mhm.
it's such a delicate discussion, and I just want to leave space for the fact that it is, and people might have a lot of feelings about this because there's like so much feelings around body fat right now, but like
I have feelings.
it's a very important point of the discussion, in a way of like, this is a protector to my body and it serves that for its reason. And that's why when it comes down to how your body is going to respond to body fat, it's such an important distinction. And it's such an important thing to think about when you're thinking about, excess body fat and inflammation and the additional pressure that it is providing to your organs, and what that looks like and how that's going to affect you on a daily basis. So some of the things that Rachel just talked about energy stores, but I kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit because I think people might have questions when it comes to energy stores, because we're thinking about the fact that that is excess energy that we should be able to go to when we need it, right? Like excessive,
Mhm.
I'm low on energy. I should be able to draw from this excess energy that is essentially waiting there. And that, although fat stores are energy that can be accessed, I think one of the things that I questioned was, well, then why do most people that have a higher body fat percentage, why do they struggle a lot with energy? So when we have an excess of body fat, why do we struggle then with energy and feeling lethargic? And what are the reasons for that? Because that was a question for me too. But I do, again, both ends of the spectrum. Everyone knows, and we've talked about this on the podcast, with really low body fat percentage people just before shows, they're lethargic. They have low energy too,
Yes.
and they're not having anything to draw from. So, what I want to say about that is body fat is stored as energy, but not easily accessible. So when it comes to, you're saying like, well, I'm just going through the day. I have excess body fat and I have plenty of excess body fat, right? And you're saying like, well, why am I tired then? I should just be tap you in. Like, that's
Come on,
not,
fat.
yeah, like, that's not how that works. And the difference that I think simplistically is if you are lean and you are metabolically healthy, you have less stored energy, but it's easier to access. So if you're someone who has a who is in a leaner body, but you're metabolically healthy, and that's why I pointed out the person who, is just before a show and they're not metabolically healthy. Okay, they're at a lower body fat percentage, but they're not metabolically healthy and they don't have as easy access to those stores if they're there. But a higher body fat, you are metabolically impaired. So you have lots of stored energy, but it's harder for you to access that energy, which is why that can turn into equaling lower energy because you cannot access it quite as easily.
It's the last resort
Yeah.
kind of. And I think you've heard, when you're on any kind of a fat loss journey, you've probably heard this is that when your body is in an energy deficit, fat is last. Because again, I know you want to be like, you idiot, why wouldn't fat be first? But if you think of it in from an evolutionary and from a survival standpoint, of course fat would be last, because that is the end of the line. That's all you have, and it's the storage. So,
Listen,
it's
it can't be first when you want it to be and last when you want it to be.
well,
Like, you
that's
also
true.
don't eat a cheesecake and then you're like, well, it went right to my thighs and now I have stored energy. Like, that's not how that works. So any one of these things happens over time, and that's where it becomes, essentially like metabolically eligible to be used as energy, because it doesn't work in one way or the other. And we've drilled that so many times. It's not one workout, it's not one meal, but it's not one meal that goes to your fat stores. And then it's not one deficit that goes to your fat stores. You know what I mean? Like, it can't happen on both ends of the spectrum that it's the first thing that it goes to fat stores, but to pull from, but it's the last thing when you want it to, just when you don't want to store quite as much. Like,
Totally. I come on, just do it
do
how I want to
it in
do
the
it,
order I
though.
want to do it. When I have
Can
cheesecake,
I
it's the
just like
last thing.
upload? I want some cheesecake now. Okay, so really quickly, there are two different kinds of fat. I just wanted to, like, for any of the science nerds, we do have white fat and brown fat, and they do kind of have two different. So when we're saying like this is the job of fat and this is what it does, technically there are two different types of fat cells, and they differ very slightly on their like performance in your body. White fat is the one that actually stores the energy, where brown fat is more of the burning your energy to produce your heat, like to heat up your body, regulate your temperature. Um, but as far as our purposes here, we can kind of call it what it is. I just wanted to bring that up in case anybody was like, well, technically. Um, so let's talk
They're
about
all
what
serving a
happens.
purpose is what you need to know. They're within your body. It's serving different purposes, but they're all serving a purpose for you.
They're not just that.
I know
So
that's
what
really how we
happens?
think of it, though.
No, when I think of a fat cell, this is what I think of.
But it's
Like,
more
just
like, you need a little
exactly. It's
energy?
doing stuff.
You need a little
It
this?
has a job. So maybe when we think about it that way, we can kind of have, and this whole thing is, a healthier relationship with how we gain and lose fat, because when you understand stuff, it is
And when
so
you see it
much
on your
more.
body, right? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
sometimes when I see cellulite, I'm like, well, my hormone production is really good, because like women have cellulite, men don't. They have, just to clarify, they're just much more prone to cellulite. I think every woman has cellulite. I don't know. But I'm like, oh, look at you, hormones. I just feel like it gives us a better view of like how we can just like view the beauty of a woman's body in like ways that I just think you can't with a man. So I'm like, look at your little straight up and downness.
How interesting of you. like the rest of you. So many facets of interestingness. All right. So when you actually lose fat, this is what's going on in your body, okay? Because we talked about in the muscle episode, when you gain muscle, what happens with the protein synthesis and the nuclei and the multiplying of the nuclei and all of that kind of staying. So let's talk about that when a fat cell changes, okay? So we take the fat that you currently have on your body, which largely for the most part does not change as an adult. Um, you, for the most part, are going to have the same amount of fat cells. Now, I'm not going to, so there's a caveat there. We are not deleting cells from our body for the most part when it comes to fat gain or fat loss. You largely have the same amount throughout your whole adult life. It's just about how full they are. So, just like a muscle cell, which can gain in nuclei and those nuclei stay active, what happens when you lose fat is that if you are in a deficit, in an energy deficit for long enough, and your body starts to pull out of fat cells, then the fat inside of the cell which is triglycerides, is going to be used for fuel. Now, once that is taken out of the fat cell shrinks. You got to think of it like a balloon. So, all of the energy inside a balloon is the helium. If we need some, we take some out, it slowly shrinks. If we take out most of it, it shrinks down to almost sort of being like a empty, deflated balloon.
You know what I like to
So,
think of it as? As this sounds so Ricky Bobby to me, like, I like to think of my Jesus as a baby Jesus. But I like to think of my fat cells with the closet, because we just talked about cleaning out your closet, and it's just like when you have more within, your closet is all fold up. You've gained weight, you've gained fat. So your closet is full of clothes. Then you clean it out, you lose body fat, but you didn't lose the closet. The closet remains. It's just how full or empty of clothes it is. So just how it's carrying on your body. And that seems really difficult for a lot of us to kind of conceptualize when we're looking at different bodies, because you're saying, like, well, that body has more fat cells than that one. They're just full, or they're more empty. Not completely empty, hopefully. But,
but similar numbers.
depleted. Yes.
Similar numbers. Every, adult, the only time that you're actually gaining in fat cells is like when you're a kid or you're in adolescence. That's the only time that the number of fat cells in your body are actually increasing. But then once you get to an adult, largely it's very much levels off, and it's just about how full your closet is or how empty your closet is. The closet's not going away. So the thing about and I will say there's a caveat to that. If you have significant weight gain, you can actually increase, yes, because there is a point where the fat cells that you have are so full that they cannot take on any more excess energy, and your body is forced to make new ones. But for the most part, we're living with the same amount of fat cells for the entirety of our life. You are not deleting fat cells, destroying fat cells, burning them, like setting them on fire. Any supplement, any influencer, anyone who tells you you can delete your fat cells, get rid of them entirely, is a liar. That is not possible. The only way that you can actually destroy a fat cell, like cell death, like it no longer stays living, is to actually physically remove it from your body. So like liposuction, like that would be a way to permanently destroy a fat cell, or take it out of your body. But other than that, we're filling them. The balloons are full. The balloons are deflated. That's all we're working with here.
That's within the general scope. So there's three ways: adolescence, significant weight gain, or cosmetic, or like an intervention that is a cosmetic intervention, basically like going, I don't want to say like going under the knife, but fat freezing or liposuction. Those are the only three ways that you're significantly changing the number of fat cells that you have.
So, you already know we make the best workout gear, but one of our best products, our highest rated product on our website, is actually our collagen. If you have not heard about Glow Up by CVG, you are missing out. There is almost 700 five-star reviews on this product because it is such an amazing supplement. Actually, looking at it today, there are only 2 one-stars that were meant to be 5 stars. They love the product, they hit the wrong amount of stars. This is one of our most popular products for a reason. It dissolves like no other collagen. It's type 1 and 3. You're gonna have healthier skin, better joint mobility. Everything about this collagen makes it easy to put into your daily routine. So if you haven't tried Glow Up, get on cvg.com and make sure to add it to cart today. It's our best product. So now the question becomes, now that we understand kind of like what their function is, how many we have, and how their numbers are working, do they remember? Now becomes the question, because we said that the best thing about muscle building was the fact that those cells remember and the factory is ready to be turned on easily. And the obvious question then became, do fat cells remember that they were once inflated largely? And are they just waiting in the wings to be inflated largely again? And it's not a memory the same as the muscles. However, your body's key function is survival.
To
Okay.
go back to what your body's key function is. If you have put it in a place of survival, in multiple, like, when it comes to, crash dying, metabolic health, like when it comes to survival, your body wants to keep you safe, keep you alive, keep you fed. So, in many ways, it remembers that. And I think that the balloon analogy is a good one too when we think about the expansion of cells, because when you look at a balloon after the first time that you've blown it up and then you let the air out, it looks different than the
Looks
first
different.
time than when you pulled it out of its bag, right? It looks like it has the ability to withhold some more air as you blow it up. So I think that it just from a practical standpoint, I think that it is important to think about fat cells in a similar way. Your body has been, it has known the increase in that cell expansion and then that decrease, but it has known that. So in many ways, it is going to remember is a hard, like, pivot to that because it's not like remember, but it does have some memory in that sense.
Your body, it doesn't want to it doesn't want to be in a deficit. When your body is signaled in a deficit, it thinks something's wrong. So it's going to try to restore to its former settings. And that's one of the we talk about this with set point weight theory. We talk about this in a lot of different metabolic ways. But if your body feels that there is a metabolic disruption, it is going to try to restore the disruption. And that is even if you are getting to what you feel is a safe and healthy and better body weight or body fat percentage for you, it still is seeing that as a threat and is going to try to restore any fat lost. Now,
I think that's
how
the
does it
reason
do
why
that?
this question can be so difficult to answer though, because when we're thinking about our metabolic health and we're thinking about the rate at which we are losing or that we are decreasing or gaining body fat, the rate is important. So when you're
Yes.
thinking about the decrease in body fat and the crash diets and things like that, the damage that you're doing to your metabolic health is essentially making you more prone to kind of like those fat cells looking to just like over, not even just at the fat cells, but your overall body looking to save your life and looking to
Yes.
get back to a place of what it feels homeostasis is. So when we look at like a slower decrease in body fat percentage over time, we're really giving our chance, like our body a chance to adapt to what kind of like the new normal is, and giving our metabolism and our metabolic health a chance to not fight so hard against the changes that we're making so that is a longer sustainable change.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. So much has to do with the rate. The rate in which everything happens is either the house is on fire or do I smell smoke? And those are two different responses from your body. Okay. So, you know, when you have some kind of decrease in body fat, which is due to inevitably there's some kind of a deficit that is happening in the body. It is receiving less than it is getting. Um,
Needs more energy,
what
so it's
we ha-
going to its
y-
spot for energy.
right, what we have is your body saying, okay, we need to. Once those fat cells shrink, we have some hormonal shifts, and
Yeah.
to try to get back to factory settings, your body is going to increase your hunger hormones. It is going to decrease your signals of being full. And essentially, we talk about metabolic adaptation. It is going to try to do your basic functions on less energy to try to conserve some energy. So, all of those things are happening when there's any significant loss in body weight. So, it's a system. It's a system. We're not just singling out one fat cell and being like, you die now. You must die. I hate you. Okay. It's a whole ass system that is functioning to keep you alive. And existing fat cells plus increased hunger plus metabolic adaptation is going to make it more likely for you to feel like the regain is easier. Right, because that's the essential question that's being asked here. Is it easier for me to regain weight once I've lost it? The answer is yes.
Yeah. I I think it's just important to, like, come out and say yes, and it's important to understand so many of the nuances, to the rate, and when we're talking about hormone health, when we're talking about what some of those things are, I think it's important that you making the connection to hormones and your hunger cues, that those 2 are very
Yes.
interconnected, because I think when a lot of people are thinking about their hormone regulation and health, they're just thinking about, like, especially for women, they're just thinking about their mood. They're thinking about, what their period is doing, like what, like where they are for some of those things. Some people might go to like hot flashes, headaches, whatever. But it's important to realize that when we're thinking about hunger cues and what your body is craving, the types of foods that it's craving,
Yeah.
those two things are so intertwined with hormones. So when Rachel is saying like your hormone health and regulation, she's talking about what those hunger cues are doing. How, and that's why when we, did the GLP-1, there was so much discussion around hunger cues and, kind of that food that food focus when it's just, it's constantly on your mind. And when we're thinking about fat loss, and especially rapid fat loss, and is it easier for me to gain that weight back after? The answer is yes. And there are many reasons for that. And it isn't just, well, are your fat cells more, prone, or are they easier to adapt to fill up? Some of those things are true, but when it comes to your metabolic adaptation, when it comes to the signals that your body is getting, the hormone disruption, what that's doing to your hunger cues, and then you blame it on your willpower or just like what your specific cravings are, we really have to make that connection to what type of hormone disruption have you experienced with your body during this rapid weight loss or during this rapid fat loss? And how has that connected to what your hunger cues are and that you're constantly fighting against that with some like willpower gain?
You aren't broken.
You're not
Your body
broken.
isn't broken. It's just protective. This is just a layer of protection, and whether you want it or not, it's there, and it's important to understand it so that we can work with the layer of protection, instead of hating it and working against it. And this is one of the things that I really want to drive home with this episode, because I think the more that I learn about the human body and the way it functions, the more I am in total awe and respect of this incredible vehicle. Um, and I think less I hate things like cellulite and uh, fat gain and why it's difficult to lose fat and all of these things, because it the understanding of the why and the understanding of the systems at play make it just so much more than did you say no to dessert? And that's just so stupid and so
It's so stupid.
oversimplified that I just feel like the more you know, the more you can really work with your body and respect its whys and the better results that you're going to have. So I want to add a little positive here, because we said, like, okay, is it easier to regain? Yes, it is. Muscles, remember, they help you to rebuild. That's an awesome adaptation that we have developed over evolution. Fat is similar in that it tries to restore. It tries to restore to previous settings because it understands the need for survival. However, this doesn't mean that you can't lose fat. It doesn't mean it's impossible to keep weight off. It doesn't mean that all of this is pointless. None of that. What it does mean is that your body values stability. Very important. Very important feature of your body. Thank you, body. I love stability. Stability is what I want. So, extreme dieting is never going to create stability. That is the house is on fire, not I smell smoke. So, sustainable habits are going to matter most here, because yes, your body is built for survival. Yes, it values stability. And those are good things in the sense of, if you want to make changes, now knowing that, you want to make stable changes, stable, lasting, sustainable changes are what your body is going to respond best to.
Here's how I like to, close out some of this discussion when it comes to what are some of the changes that we're going to make. And a lot of people are listening and they're like, I know you're saying like my body fat is there to help me for energy stores and there are some really good things with having body fat, but I'm carrying too much of it and I want to lose more of it. And I totally hear you. And I just want to say that like unhealthy habits are never going to create a healthy lifestyle, and your body is going to recognize that even if you want to lie to it. If you want to say, like, well, it's really healthy for me to just eat 1,000 calories. But if your bad nutritionist told you that,
Send me his
extreme
number.
send me some, that extreme caloric deficit is going to help you because it's more detrimental that you're carrying excessive body fat. I want you to think about what are healthy habits and do they translate to a healthy lifestyle? Because on both ends of the spectrum, and we are less likely to point out this flaw with people who have put in what they consider would be healthy habits with like kind of excessive time in the gym. And I want to just point out that this is on both ends of the spectrum where like is it healthy to work out, and a lot of people who are doing like kind of extreme marathon, like kind of like more extreme um workout regimens like this acknowledge that like this is not healthy for my body. I'm trying to push it to its, to see what it's capable of, but like none of that is healthy. Neither is boxing. Okay. Like, like we can acknowledge what that is, but in the health and fitness industry, we tend to think like more is better. It's just not. So unhealthy habits are never going to create a healthy lifestyle. So when you're putting and you're making some of these changes and you're thinking about, extreme caloric deficit, or you're thinking about, how much time you can spend in the gym, or, under what loads, what progressive loads, that type of thing, we really need to think about, like, is this actually a healthy habit, or am I just using my form of a quick fix to get to, what I think would be a better body fat percentage for me right now, when in the long term, it's going to create instability for our body and is going to make it in this, kind of lifelong push pull where we're in this battle with our bodies till the very end.
I just I love the reframe of like I work with you baby, not against you. And I just think that that comes so much with knowledge. And you know, when we so when we think about the muscle cells and we say like increase the number of nuclei, and that's how we remember and that's how we build back strength stronger, better, easier the second time. Yes. And when we think about fat cells, it's different. We are not talking about the sheer number. We are not saying like we're decreasing the number of our fat cells. We're regulating them better. Okay. When we're maximizing our metabolic health with regards to zeroing in like on this very, very small scale of I'm looking at you, fat cells. I'm looking at you and your role in this. What we are doing is not eliminating them, we are regulating them better. That way, they will perform their function, which is very important function of keeping our excess energy stored for us, regulating our hormones that have to do with hunger, and also women also regulating hormones that have to do with reproduction and keeping our organs safe and regulating our temperature and all the other important things that it does. But we want them to function at their top level. And they're not going to function at their top level when they're the most full a balloon can possibly be before it pops, right? Like we know this. We want them, we're not eliminating them. We just want to regulate them to the best ability that we can. And just remembering that although we don't have that kind of advantage of like that we do with muscle of, it remembers and when we come back it's like, "Hey girl, I'm waiting." It's not the same advantage with fat cells, but understanding how it works and that understanding that it's just there and it's there to protect you and that you can maximize its function is, I think, the win out of this where, you don't have to like say like, "Oh my god, this is all just a waste of time and I'm just like up against it and my fat cells just want to be there to ruin my life."
They're just ready for expansion. Well, here's the thing. It gives you tools on what to do instead, because when we are looking at like what do we do instead to not, if we have lost, a significant amount of weight, or we're looking to lose a significant, not even a significant. If we're looking to lose body fat, what are the things that we need to do instead to achieve that goal? Because that's very real, and that is, a lot of people's goal who are listening to the podcast. And what I think that what we need to do, and what we need, the checklist that we need to go over with that understanding of what your body wants to do, you want to avoid extreme caloric deficits. You want to build muscle. You want to plan for maintenance. You want to eat consistently. We're constantly talking about your metabolic health. And I really feel like this is one of those things that is just like underplayed, and you want to expect resistance that is not a failure. So when your body is giving you some feedback to what you're doing, you want to hear that feedback. You got your goals. I totally understand that. But the feedback isn't a failure. If you have an increase in cravings, or if you have, dysregulated hormones, or if you have, some ways where you're like, well, I'm just really hungry. Okay, great. That's great feedback for me. What are some of the things that I know are metabolically healthy for me? As in, what are some of the foods that take more energy to break down, keep me fuller for longer? What do those look like? So I know I'm going to increase my protein. right? I know that I'm going to look at my fiber intake because I
Fiber.
really want to keep my metabolism moving. I'm looking to build a healthy overall system and not point the finger at one of the systems that is seemingly broken, but instead, what are the overall systems? If every year I go on some type of crash diet, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop doing that. And I know so many people. Honestly have had so many friends who I've had these discussions with, and still every year they go on the same well, it's January, and it's like, have we not learned yet of what's going on here and what these types of crash diets are and what that's doing to your metabolism and how that is creating overall instability in your weight and in your hormone fluctuation, like overall instability. And for the moment, you think that that has worked because when it comes to the end of February, you're like, well, I've, reached my goals. But when we look at the full year, how long did that last? And
And
in the
that's
years consecutively.
that's what we need to be looking for when we say expect some resistance. It's
Yes.
not in the way of like the typical resistance that people consider like my willpower will fail. The resistance will literally come on a cellular level from your body, and it will have nothing to do with willpower, okay? It will have nothing to do with how good or bad or moral or not moral you are, or how much you can say, like, no to dessert, okay? It's a cellular resistance to the fat loss. And expecting that, understanding why it's there, and then going ahead and making a plan for how you're going to respond when the resistance comes up. As Kelsey said, increasing protein, increasing fiber, having a plan for saying, I know my body is going to say, hey, girl, I don't think so. We got to survive here. And here's what I'm going to do when it does is like game changer for sustainability. And learning about your body and working with it and all it's
Well,
just
you're
like,
getting a feedback. Now we're in a relationship, right?
oh,
Because
I love
like
that.
now we're starting this relationship with our body where when your body gives you feedback, you don't just say you're just stupid and you don't know what you're
I
talking about.
hate
Like
you.
that I said lose fat.
Burn the
Like,
fat.
like
I
it's
said.
it's like that power struggle is not going to be one that you're winning. This is your house. Like that you don't want to win it because like if you did win, your body's main function being keeping you alive, you don't want to win actually. So when we break that down and think about like now this is a relationship and I'm going to care for this relationship with feedback that I'm getting along the way with like these are my goals, but you can give me feedback, we make adjustments, I feed you, you feed me, and now we have this relationship where we're working together towards the happiest, healthiest, best self that you can be. And that is not with the picture on your fridge. That's not with these crash diets. That's not with these like set weight that you've decided some influencer told you you should be. It's with what that healthy habits look like for you with the feedback that your specific body, the most important feedback you're going to get is giving you. So let's build that relationship together so that we can work together because you're not going to achieve the goals that you want to achieve if you're in a battle.
Isn't that every little thing right there? That's every little thing for me. Carol, you made this
Thank
episode
you.
possible. We love your question. We thought it was outstanding. And if you have a question and you're listening and you're like, yeah, but what about this? Or I need this explained better. Or I was thinking about this 20 minutes before I was supposed to be sleeping. You guys definitely get in the YouTube channel, comment on our socials. Let us know what you want to hear about. This episode brought to you by Carol G. And we hope you enjoyed it. And let us know how you're enjoying the podcast.